Hey there, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and wherever else you might be watching this video. This is, I think, the final video I'm doing with the faculty for the upcoming AJC Coaching Career School. I don't know if by the time this is released, whether we'll have any spots left. We've got currently 3 available, but let's see. I'm recording these to introduce people, and whether you attend the school or not, please do watch them, share them with people. I love that people are getting so much value from the content that is being shared in the school, and that's very deliberate. I'm really pleased that I've got one of my mentors with me, a very good mentor and friend and colleague, Dr. Keith Blevens. We've known each other for a long time now, I think coming up to 10, 11 years. Keith has been a massive positive influence in my life. Whenever I've had a personal challenge, he's kind of been my secret to, not so much of a secret, but to go back and really point me and ground me in what's true. And so I'm so pleased that, Keith, you've agreed once again to come back and be faculty on our program. It really lifts the standing, I believe, of the school to have, faculty like yourself in the school. And I think this time round, we had a great masterclass last time. This time, your masterclass is going to be very much Q&A and very interactive, because I think the work you do with people, whether they're coaches or non-coaches, is just second to none. And witnessing that and watching that is so powerful for anyone, whether it's the person getting coached or not. And I asked you a question before we started recording, and I stopped you because I was like, this is going to be a great thing to record. We've got about 20 minutes, 15 minutes. If you had 15, 20 minutes to say anything you wanted to coaches that would be most helpful, what would you say?
Well, in my mind, I think the importance or the motto, let's just say there's a motto for the practice of your coaching. What might that be that I would suggest? And I think that would be, I'm not interested in your problem. And I think that the effect of the coaching, when it really hits home for people, is that they themselves become disinterested in their problems. Your problems are manufactured in your mind, and that's the very place where you don't want to center your life focus. So a life focus that isn't centered on your problems is one of mental health and effectiveness and well-being and joy and all the things that everybody on earth is looking for is right inside of their minds if they are not oriented toward their personal problems, their personal thinking, which is so tempting and so common for people to be so absorbed in and so focused on. And so if you can teach people to why looking there will never work and will make things worse, but there is a better place to look that is powerful and important and life-changing, and it's right available to them right now. And you're a coach that can certify and validate and orient you toward this never-ending insight dimension of their own mind. Well, then they're going to be a very grateful customer, and they're going to tell others about what you help them with. So there's seemingly a narrow focus, but that narrow focus is actually the aperture to the universe, and the universe of goodwill and mental health and peace of mind.
See, some coaches would say the opposite to that. And they would say that, well, surely we should be really interested in our clients' problems. That's what they're paying us for. And, clients are certainly interested in their problems. So could you expand a little bit on that if we're not interested in people's problems, because it can sound to some people like, oh, this is just avoidance, or it's, just fantasy land, or we'll just ignore your problems and everything will get better. And I know that's not what you're pointing to, because you use
No.
the word effectiveness, and I've really found that for me. So could you talk a little bit about how do we get to being effective but not focusing on the problem?
Well, because your mind, like I said, is the opening, the aperture, the doorway to universal knowledge. But you can't find that by filling your mind and your thinking with problems. And so you're right. That's what most coaches are going to think. That's their practice and province. But the secret is here for the psychology of the future is not that. And when people hear, oh, well, when somebody gets, you mean I shouldn't be thinking about my problems? That's not avoidance. No, there's another direction. And when your problem-oriented mind synchronizes with universal mind, or impersonal mind, then your problems not only go away, which is that's a big deal right there, but also this universal mind opens up to you that is so laden with beauty and insight and peace of mind, that is, you will realize that you've been looking in the wrong place, and that everybody, and including your coaching clients and most everybody else in the world, is searching for something. But their search is frustrating them and vexating them because they're looking, and I was looking there too. I was looking in the wrong, you could say, mind. I was looking in my personal mind for the answers that were not ever going to be there. And when I realized for myself, oh, I'm looking in the wrong place, it was kind of like a shock. And when I say to people, I'm not interested in their problems, well, then they often say, well, why am I here? And I say, well, I've got a whole nother dimension, a domain to open up to you that is not where you've been looking, but it's where the answer is. So if you want answers, if you want real answers, and you want real well-being, you want real mental health, then that's what I have to offer. That really helps. In my mind, it helps narrow the focus of a coach, but actually widen it up to the entire universe, to the universal knowledge that everybody is really actually looking for, whether they know it or not.
I think there's something really powerful about this, Keith, because, we've worked a lot together, and through the work we've done, I mean, this segment, what we're talking about today, one of the things I could have asked you was, how is it that we can work with absolutely everyone? And I think you're kind of answering that question, even though I didn't ask it, because if you are not focusing on the problem and coaching someone within the confines of a problem. And I remember meeting this CEO, and he already had a coach, and he had this problem. And the problem was, oh, I'm not getting acknowledged by my boss, the owners of the company, even though I'm doing a great job as a CEO. Well, within that confines of that problem, he was being coached around that, which is, okay, well, this is how you get acknowledgement. If you're not going to get it from your boss, you can get it from yourself, you can get it from your co-workers or your reports. It was still not exacerbating, but it was solidifying. It was making real that problem is a real problem. And within that, okay, we've got a certain movement. And I'm sure this coach wasn't a cheap coach. This CEO was quite successful. And what I pointed him to was what he was thinking was a problem, i.e., that he wasn't feeling great because he wasn't getting this acknowledgement. What if that wasn't an issue? What if that wasn't a problem? And if he understood a little bit more about the latest work in psychology, which you and some of your colleagues have been doing, it's like you see that, and he got it. And so when he gets that, this is how this is effective. In my mind, is it just took a whole lot off his plate. Now, if you're a busy leader, that's pretty useful, right? Oh, I don't need to do all this stuff, to my to-do list. And It's not like you say avoiding dealing with something. It's seeing it through a different lens, we could say, and realizing, oh, the issue isn't really what we thought it is.
Yeah, exactly. A different dimension. There's a different dimension to your mind, everybody's mind. And you get turned on to that dimension, and you realize it's not where you've been creating your problems, because you create them innocently. And then if some people says, oh, I'll help you with that. Well, they're going to help exacerbate that. They're going to help innocently. But if they're going to pitch in and say, well, I'll roll up my sleeves and help you with that, well, then that's where people hurt people mentally. It looks like they're helping. They think they're helping, and other people seeking help often think they're getting help via that, but it's never ending. You will never, ever get to the end of that maze because you're looking in the wrong place for the answer. If you know the answer as a coach, and then you help them say, oh, not over there, over here. And say, well, I'm not so sure. I'd rather look over here. Say, well, just bear with me a little bit. Let me show you a completely new direction you evidently haven't fully identified with and found for yourself. That's what I do. I help you find for yourself that mind, that universal mind. And when you do, you're going to take off like a rocket. And you're going to feel grateful most every moment of the rest of your life because you found a new world. And that's what the future of psychology is finding the entryway to new worlds of insight, of knowledge, of wonder, of beauty, of effectiveness, but not personal achievement, like patting myself on the back or aren't I great? Not an egotistical sort of land. There is no ego and there are no problems in this direction. And then when you get misdirected and you find yourself stuck in ego land or problem land, you'll know, well, whoa, wait a minute. I'm looking in the wrong place. And then you will recenter yourself without a coach. You'll have an automatic sense and feeling for what it's like when you're looking in the wrong direction. And that'll be so automatic that you won't need help anymore. You'll be helping yourself. You'll be your own best coach.
It's beautiful. We are helping people tap into people might call it their gut or their intuition. You might call it universal mind or wisdom. But I think these words all point in the same direction. And it's taking people out of their heads and taking stuff off their mind and kind of opening them up, like you say. And I think this is so powerful because so often coaches are told they're given a prescription, both for themselves, but then also for the client. You got to do this, do this, do this, or you've got to do this, do this, do this in terms of helping someone. But it's so useful just to be able to take all of that away, go beyond that. Because even when you say, I'm not interested in your problems, that, if someone just hears the words, it could sound a little bit, harsh, but actually it's the most loving thing you could say to someone, because you're, like you say, pointing them in a different direction, which is going to really help them. And one of the things that I'm teaching people in the school is, how powerful you are as a coach because you see it in your work, right? And one of the things that I find is, and I had to face this, is like, oh, I'm pretty good, but okay, no one's hiring me. I speak to them, that it's not impacting them. They're not telling anyone about it. And the deeper the work that I've done with you, I've seen that the impact I've had with clients has just increased. And as that's increased, then I can see that I'm able to help them more. I'm able to go deeper. They often tell other people about the work that I've done and how helpful it is. And so this all ties in very much to, because the school's about the business of coaching, it all ties into that. Because so often as coaches, we're speaking to people who are thinking about hiring us, and we've got a very short window basically to give them an experience of what it is that we do for them to make a decision to work with us. And so the more impactful we are in that time, the more likely they are to hire us. Now, what you're pointing to is, hey, let's go beyond, forget the problem. We're just taking things to a different dimension. Well, if you can do that, then I believe strongly that the impact you're going to have with the person is just so much higher than a typical coach may have with someone following a prescription.
Oh, it's night and day, because a prescription is so labor intensive and so measly and so not where it's at and so grinding and so intellectualized that it's hopeless, and it'll just grind you down to nothing and then leave you with nothing. But that's because there is nothing in that domain and direction. And so I thought that if I could, I was trained to be an expert in that dimension, and I didn't know there was any other dimension. So I was a pretty good, therapist in that psychology. And then I ran into the three principles and I ran into this other dimension, and it just blew my mind. And I thought, my God, what have I been doing to these poor innocent souls that I've worked with for all these years? Well, not so many years, because I fortunately got wind of this early on postgraduate, but then it's opened up a whole completely new career, and it's actually, there are no limitations to the mind, none. And so you open up a person's world of that, then they are, they're cosmically freed from their own personal drawbacks and problems. And that's a huge, that's like a whole nother thing. It's like, I don't know, it's hard to contrast the two, but one's so puny and one is so fabulous that it's no contest.
Yeah. And what I really love, one of the things I love about you, Keith, is you really walk your talk with this. And I've seen this and I've spent time with you. I've actually flown over to the States and spent time with you. And what I saw was the way you were interacting with your wife, Valda, because I had sessions with both of you together. You're really walking your talk. And again, that's something I talk about in the school, that it's not enough to kind of be an expert or to show or what, like it, you've really got to be that, be what you're trying to point your clients to. And I
Yeah.
see that you walk your talk. And I think what's happened over the last few years, your wife had a stroke and how you dealt with that. And you were supporting me on some of my programs whilst that was going on, which I would see it would have thrown most people. It really didn't with you. So you really walked this. And I'm so excited. I call you the greatest psychologist in the world. I'm so glad once again that you're agreed to be on this program with us, and those in the school get to experience you in a bigger way in the program. So I'm going to have to cut it short because we're trying to keep these all to 20 minutes, but thank you so much. And I really do hope that if people join the school, they really take a lot from you, but also even if people don't, they've got some chance to get to know a little bit about who you are and go and check out some further resources from you.
Oh, thank you so much, Ankush. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to continuing our conversations. And thank you.
Thank you.